Welcome to St. Louis.
Thank you.
It's been a while, hasn't it? Actually, was Soundgarden here last year?
I don't know.
Year, but you just go ahead and tell you, right?
I remember, yeah.
Well, let me just tell you a little about myself. So I'm a 37-year-old guy.
Uh-huh.
I would consider myself a child of the 90s.
Uh-huh.
So if I were to have a Mount Rushmore of 90s rock for myself, it'd be Soundgarden, it'd be Pearl Jam, it'd be Alice in Chains, it would be, who am I missing?
This is your concept.
Stone Temple Pilots.
Okay.
And how many of Nirvana? How many of those guys on my Mount Rushmore of rock are not here anymore? I mean, Lane's gone, Kurt Cobain's gone, and we lost Scott Weiland 2 weeks ago. I mean, what are your thoughts on that? Does that blow your mind that even you're still here, still playing, and some guys didn't make it from the 90s?
I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say because I guess the overall attitude kind of ends up being that it's a drug issue, but that's kind of cloudy. I mean, I have other friends that were extremely talented musicians that died in other ways, and I think it's just sort of.
Why did some guys make it and some guys didn't make it?
Well, everybody has friends from school that would be the same age as them that aren't there. People die. People don't survive.
Sure.
Is it kind of that simple?
Is it a product of their environment, who they hang around? Like, take Scott Weiland for a second.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so Scott Weiland, known to have a lot of problems for many years. Got clean for a while from what everybody heard. And then, passed away a couple weeks ago, and his ex-wife had wrote, I don't know if you saw what she wrote, a scathing thing about surrounding himself with bad people, and he's, kind of propped up on stage every night, and never saw his kids and stuff like that. What I'm getting at is how does that happen? Does the music industry just swallow people?
No, what I'm getting at is, if you go into a 12-step meeting, any city, and you count 75 people and you ask how many of them are musicians, you're going to get 2. And everybody else is going to be from every walk of life that you can imagine. The same as Scott Weiland's mother crying, there are mothers crying who have lost their sons, who are construction workers, mechanics, literally anything you can think of, and it's happening every day. And the only difference between a musician that's famous and that other kid is that we don't talk about him on the radio.
Yeah.
That's kind of it.
They're not the rock star.
No, they're not somebody that is a public personality. That's someone that's already been talked about for other reasons. And then I also think that there's kind of a history of sort of not deifying, but glamorizing a little bit the dead guy. Whether it's a rock star or a famous actor. Like the James Dean he only made 3 movies, and he's one of the best known actors of all time. And granted, I think everyone agreed that he was really talented.
But he was around,
and he died like in a sort of glamorous, badass way, which is in a little race car on his way to a race, driving it himself.
Yeah.
I think there's something to that, to the legend of that, and something to the story of that. But one of the things that I've experienced over and over again, which I think is a way that people deal with it, particularly when it's someone who's already kind of celebrated for something, is that we invent this idea that somehow there was like it was predetermined. I think. And that's where I get impatient with it, because it's if that's the case, it's predetermined with every kid that ends up with a substance abuse habit and dies from it.
But you can't change your
millions
path,
of them. Yeah, you can, absolutely.
And you just have to surround yourself
and
with
many
the right
do,
people.
and many don't. Yeah.
I think a lot of the people at fault were the people that were surrounding.
Yeah, I don't know. That's another argument too. I don't buy that either.
Well,
I think that's a mother's argument.
Are you a personal responsibility guy?
Yeah, I think that's
you can't blame anybody else.
I think that's a parental angle too, where it's just too hard to to put the responsibility on your child.
Or it's always
yourself.
somebody else's fault.
Yeah, it's like, got in with the wrong crowd. And I'm not saying that is entirely wrong, but if someone has a propensity to abuse alcohol or drugs, and they didn't meet the wrong sort this weekend, they're going to meet another guy somewhere else.
At some point.
Yeah, if you have that in you.
Do you ever
It's a matter of sort of course as to when, at what point in your life you run into it and realize, and then you have to confront the problem.
Was there a point for you where like, I need to grow up? Or do you look at yourself? Or do you look at leaving that mindset, that decadent rock and roll
I was
thing behind?
I was never decadent, and I was always someone I think that was
In control?
I was always sort of. I was used to a certain amount of just kind of expecting a lot of myself and being able to meet that expectation of myself, not of anybody else. And I kind of, that was who I was since I could remember.
Right.
And I think it took me for a good 2 or 3 years of really being in a situation where I wasn't producing anything that I would feel was worthy of what my potential is, and then that was about enough. That's never really been who I am, and it's sure not making me happy.
Right.
And I also, and this could be the way that I was raised. It could be just it could be nature, it could be nurture. But I've always felt like if something's going wrong in my life, if something's going wrong in my band, if something's going wrong in a relationship, I got to figure I just have to assume it's my fault. Do what I can do.
And try to fix it.
Yeah, and maybe
yourself.
if it's not my fault, then at some point that will come out. But ultimately, I think that not everybody has that attitude. A lot of the time, I think people get used to or have some success at being able to kind of push off personal responsibility and kind of get away with
emotions. And
I think with that, a lot of the time, it's the people who surround you and that sort of allow it, And so, yeah, it's not really your fault. It's true. There was this issue and that outstanding issue, but in the long run, we're actually having a conversation about people between late 20s and 50s.
Yeah. It's just a sad thing for a rock star of that kind of caliber to be found in the back of a tour bus in a parking lot in Minnesota.
Yeah, and I would just add, it's a sad thing for anybody.
Anybody. Absolutely.
In their bed at home.
Absolutely.
In a parking lot.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think that. If there's any sort of anything to learn from it, it's that there is no type of person, vocation. There is no categorization of person, man or woman that you can be that is going to be immune to a lot of these things: substance abuse, mental illness, behavioral problems.
It could be behind the closed doors of a bedroom or a tour bus. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what kind of person is behind that door doing that stuff.
No, it can affect anybody and everybody, and no one's immune to it. Even the ones that you would think should have more help and support, maybe. But I don't know. I don't think that. I don't think that at the end of the day, if a person really wants to get better, anything can stop them. And if a person doesn't want to, they won't.
Right.
We can make them do it.
It's a shame the wasted talent for anybody. For anybody. Well, happy holidays. Thank you. So how does the Chris Cornell family celebrate Christmas, celebrate the holidays?
Well, for a few years now, we were in Rome, which is a pretty amazing place to be. Because they kind of go all out for Christmas.
Because
the Vatican.
Do you go to the Vatican and take in the what are they, parades there?
Well, I think last year there were, I can't remember, because the new Pope was doing a Christmas Mass, and I think there was like over 2 million
What, St.
people.
Peter's Square?
Yeah, and there's over 2 million people just walking around.
What about this?
But it's different. It's like it's not walking around and sort of in this frantic consumer mode. It's just sort of people hanging out. It's pretty amazing. This year's snowboarding, skiing.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you have a Christmas tree? And you have young kids, right? You in your bathrobe and you come downstairs and the kids open up the Christmas presents, stuff like that?
Yeah. I don't smoke a pipe, but
No.
else.
No. Drinking eggnog out of like the Ranger glasses, like the Griswolds, and watching the kids open up the presents. Well, listen, thanks for taking the time out to talk. And there's a really cool venue, by the way. I mean, it's you, a guitar, and a couple other guys on stage, and kind of stripped down, not the Soundgarden, Chris Cornell, everybody's kind of used to. It's a small place. So I'm really looking forward to seeing you tonight, and I appreciate you taking the time to come back and chat for a couple minutes.
All right, thank you.
Chris Cornell.